The morning on Titan started like any other. The orange sky hung low over the colony, and the domed cities hummed with life. Children ran to school. Workers walked to the factories. Families ate breakfast together. Nobody knew that this would be the last normal day they would ever have. Was 23 years old. She worked as a teacher in the colony's main school. That morning she stood in front of her classroom and smiled at the small faces looking up at her. She loved her job. She loved these children. Her father, Admiral, always told her that she had chosen a noble path. While he protected humanity among the stars, she shaped its future on the ground. "Today we will learn about Earth," said to her students. "Who can tell me what Earth looks like?" A small boy raised his hand. "It's blue and green, teacher." "That's right," said. "One day maybe you will visit." She never finished her sentence. The first explosion came without warning. The dome cracked. The sound was so loud that it hurt, grabbed the children and pushed them under the desks. Through the window she saw ships in the sky. They were not human ships. They were long and black, shaped like knives cutting through the clouds. They had come. For 200 years humanity had known about the Empire. They were an old species. They controlled 100 star systems. They looked down on younger races like humans. Earth's diplomats had always tried to be peaceful with them. They smiled. They bowed. They offered trade and friendship. They took what they wanted and gave nothing back. But they had never attacked, until now. The black ships moved fast. They did not come to talk. They did not come to threaten. They came to kill. Beam weapons cut through buildings like hot knives through paper. People ran, but there was nowhere to run. The dome was breaking apart. Air was escaping into the cold void outside. Held her students close. "Stay with me," she whispered. "Stay with me." But the weapons kept falling. The floor shook. The ceiling cracked. Looked up and saw death coming for her. Her last thought was of her father. She hoped he would not blame himself. Admiral was 3 days away when the attack began. His ship, the Horizon, was the pride of Earth's fleet. It was returning from a diplomatic mission at the edge of human space. When the distress signal came, felt his heart stop. "Full speed to Titan," he ordered. His voice was calm, his hands were shaking. His officers looked at each other. They knew what was happening. They knew they were too far away. "Sir," his second officer said softly, "at maximum speed, we will arrive in 62 hours. 62 hours, more than 2 days, closed his eyes. The attack would be over in minutes. He was watching his daughter die from the other side of the solar system. The communication screen showed chaos, screaming, fire, buildings falling. Then slowly the signals went quiet. One by one they disappeared. The colony was dying. Stood alone on the bridge. He did not cry. He did not scream. He just stood there watching the silence grow. When the Horizon finally reached Titan, there was nothing left to save. The dome cities were gone. Burned and broken, they lay like dead insects on the moon's surface. The air was full of dust and ash. Ships moved slowly through the wreckage, searching for survivors. There were none. 40,000 people had lived on Titan. Men, women, and children, scientists and workers, teachers and students, all of them were dead. They had killed them all and then left without a word. Walked through the ruins of the school. He found his body under a fallen wall. She was still holding a child in her arms. Even in death, she had tried to protect them. He knelt beside her. He touched her face. It was cold. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "I'm so sorry." Around him, rescue teams moved in silence. There were no injured to help. There were only bodies to count. Back on Earth, the news spread like fire. Every screen showed the same images. The burning domes, the broken bodies, the empty streets filled with ash. People watched in horror. Then horror turned to something else. Anger. For 200 years, humanity had played by the rules. They had been polite. They had been careful. They had believed that civilization meant talking, not fighting. They had built schools instead of weapons. They had sent diplomats instead of soldiers. And the galaxy had laughed at them. The other species called humans weak, soft, easy to push around. They had decided that these soft creatures would make a perfect target. Nobody would care if a few humans died. Nobody would fight back. They were wrong. Commander received the news on Earth. She was the head of human military forces. For years, she had warned that peace was not enough. She had said that the galaxy was dangerous. She had asked for stronger ships, better weapons, more soldiers. The politicians had said no. "We are civilized," they had told her. "We do not start wars." Had listened. She had followed orders. She had kept her weapons locked away and her soldiers at rest. Now she looked at the images from Titan. She saw the children's bodies. She saw the burning schools. She saw everything she had feared. She picked up her communicator and called President. "Sir," she said, "I need to address the council." Said slowly, "What are you planning?" "The only thing we can do," she answered. "It's time to show the galaxy what humanity really is." There was a long pause, then spoke again. "I'll call the meeting." On Titan, Admiral still knelt beside his daughter's body. The sun was setting. The orange sky was turning dark. Soon, the cold night would come. He made a promise then, not out loud, just in his heart. A promise to every person who had died. They would pay, not with words, not with treaties, with blood. Humanity had tried to be refined. They had tried to be peaceful. They had tried to be good. That was over now. The United Earth Council met in Geneva. The Great Hall was old and beautiful, built centuries ago when humans still fought each other. Now it was the heart of human civilization. Leaders from every nation sat in a wide circle. Their faces were tired and sad. Many had not slept since the news from Titan. Commander stood at the center of the room. She wore her military uniform. It was simple and gray. She had no medals on her chest. She had never fought a real war. None of them had. Humanity had been at peace for so long that they had forgotten what war looked like. Today, they would remember. "Thank you for coming," said. Her voice was strong and clear. "I know many of you have questions. I know many of you are afraid. But before we talk, I want you to see something." She pressed a button. The lights dimmed. A large screen appeared behind her. The room fell silent. The video was from Titan. It showed the last minutes of the colony. The images were hard to watch. Ships falling from the sky, buildings exploding, people running through the streets trying to escape, children crying for their parents, parents carrying dead children in their arms. Then came the final transmission. A young woman appeared on the screen. She was a communications officer. Her face was covered in dust and blood. Behind her, fires burned. The ceiling was falling apart. She was crying, but she kept talking. "This is Colony 7 on Titan. We are under attack. They have broken the treaty. They are killing everyone. We have no weapons. We have no defense. We are just people." She stopped. More explosions, more screaming. "Please," she whispered, "please remember us. Please don't let them win." The screen went black. The council members sat in silence. Some of them were crying. Some of them looked sick. One old man had his head in his hands, his shoulders shaking. Let the silence last. She wanted them to feel it, the weight of what had happened, the cost of their peaceful dreams. Then she spoke again. 40,000 people, dead, not soldiers, not criminals, just people, teachers, engineers, children. The youngest was 3 months old. Her name was Bora. She died in her mother's arms. Paused, she looked around the room. They did not attack us because we were a threat. They attacked us because we were not. For 200 years, we have shown the galaxy that we are peaceful. We have traded fairly. We have helped when we could. We have smiled at species who looked down on us. We have accepted insults with grace. Her voice grew harder. And what did we get? We got Titan. We got 40,000 graves. We got a message from the saying that they cleaned up our colony because it was in their way. The anger in the room was growing. Could feel it. It was like a fire spreading from person to person. I spent 20 years building a military that we never used, she continued. I trained soldiers who never fought. I stored weapons that we were too civilized to fire, because that is what we believed. We believed that being good meant being peaceful. We believed that the galaxy would respect us if we respected them. She shook her head slowly. We were fools. A council member raised his hand. He was old, with white hair and a kind face. He had been a diplomat for 50 years. Commander, he said, I understand your anger. We all share it, but war is not the answer. We must. Must what? Cut him off. Send more diplomats, write more letters, ask them to please stop killing our children. The old man fell silent. I'm not asking for war, said. War is already here. The started it. The only question is whether we will fight back or lie down and die. President stood up. He was a tall man, thin and serious. He had led Earth for 12 years. In that time he had worked hard for peace. He had believed in it with all his heart. Now his heart was broken. Is right, he said quietly. Everyone turned to look at him. I have spent my life trying to build bridges with other species. I believed that understanding and patience could solve any problem. I was wrong. He walked to the center of the room and stood beside. They do not see us as equals. They see us as insects. You cannot negotiate with someone who thinks you are nothing. You can only show them that you are something. He looked around the room. 200 years ago, humanity united. We ended our wars. We healed our planet. We reached for the stars. We did all of this because we believed we could be better. We believed that violence was the old way and peace was the future. His voice grew stronger. But peace is not the same as weakness, and civilization does not mean surrender. They have taught us an important lesson. In this galaxy, being kind is not enough. You must also be strong. He turned to face the screen, still dark, still empty. We're done being refined, he said. From this day forward, humanity will defend itself, with words if we can, with weapons if we must. And if any species thinks we are easy prey, they will learn the truth. The room was silent for a moment. Then slowly the council members began to nod. Some raised their hands in support. Others simply sat in their chairs. The fear was still there, but something else was growing alongside it. Determination. Commander stepped forward again. I have a plan, she said. For years we have kept our strongest weapons locked away. We called them too dangerous. We called them uncivilized. We were ashamed of them. She smiled, but there was no happiness in it. No more. Engineer has been waiting for this day. He and his team have technologies that the galaxy has never seen. Things that will make the wish they had never heard the name human. President raised his hand. All in favor of activating Project Storm. Every hand in the room went up. Then it is decided, said, Commander, you have full authority. Do what must be done. Nodded, she turned and walked toward the door. Before she left, she stopped and looked back at the council. In a few weeks, the galaxy will know a new word. They will whisper it in fear. They will teach their children to be careful when they hear it. What word? Someone asked. Human, said, then she walked out. The council room fell silent again. Outside, the sun was setting over Geneva. The old city looked peaceful in the evening light. Birds flew across the sky. People walked along the streets below. None of them knew that their world had just changed forever. In a secret facility under the mountains, Engineer received a message. He read it twice, then smiled. Finally, he whispered. He stood up and walked to a massive door at the end of his laboratory. Behind that door were the things humanity had been afraid to use. Weapons that could break planets. Machines that could tear apart the fabric of space. Technology born from humanity's darkest imagination. Put his hand on the door. Time to wake up, he said. The door opened. Engineer had worked in darkness for 30 years. His laboratory was built deep inside a mountain, far from cities and people. Few knew it existed. Fewer knew what was inside. The government called it Storage Facility 7, called it the cage. Because that is what it was, a cage for monsters. When humanity first reached the stars, they discovered something frightening about themselves. They were very, very good at creating weapons. Other species had better technology. They had faster ships and older civilizations. But no species in the galaxy could imagine death the way humans could. In the first years of space travel, human scientists invented things that scared even them. Bombs that could eat stars, machines that could twist gravity into knots, viruses that could think and hunt. Each invention was more terrible than the last. The leaders of Earth looked at these weapons and felt sick. This was not who they wanted to be. They did not want to be the monsters of the galaxy, so they locked everything away. They buried it under mountains. They told to watch over it and never let it out. Someday you might need these things, they told him, but pray that day never comes. Had prayed every night for 30 years, and now his prayers had been answered in the worst way possible. The door behind him closed. He stood in a long hallway lit by soft blue lights. On both sides there were rooms sealed with thick metal walls. Each room held something different. Each room held something terrible. Walked slowly, reading the labels on the doors. Project Hunger, a weapon that could make a planet starve in days. It would kill every plant, every animal, every microbe. Nothing would be left alive. Project Shadow, machines that could hide entire fleets in the darkness between stars. No sensor could find them. No eye could see them. They would appear from nothing, strike, and vanish again. Project Void, this was the one that frightened the most. It was a bomb that could create black holes, small ones, but even a small black hole could swallow a city, or a space station, or a moon. He kept walking. Project Storm, satellites that could control weather on any planet. They could create hurricanes that lasted for years. They could freeze oceans. They could turn paradise into hell. Project Mirror, drones that could copy enemy ships perfectly. They would fly among the enemy, looking like friends, until the moment they attacked. Project Whisper, viruses designed to attack computer systems. They could shut down an entire civilization in hours. No power, no communication, no defense. There were more, so many more. Humanity had spent 2 centuries thinking about war, even while they preached peace. They had imagined every possible horror. They had built machines for each one. And now, finally, those machines would be used. Stopped at the end of the hallway. There was one last door larger than the others. It had no label. It was simply black. This was the most dangerous thing in the cage. Had never opened this door. He had been told never to open it unless humanity faced extinction. Even then, he was supposed to think twice. He thought twice, then he opened it anyway. Inside was a single sphere floating in the center of the room. It was small, no bigger than a human head. Its surface was smooth and silver. It looked almost peaceful. This was the seed. The seed was not a weapon exactly. It was worse than that. It was a factory. If activated, it would travel to the nearest asteroid belt and begin building. It would use every rock, every piece of ice, every grain of dust to create machines. War machines. Millions of them, billions of them. An army that never stopped growing. The seed could turn a solar system into a weapon in weeks. It could build a fleet larger than any species had ever seen. And it would never stop, never rest, never show mercy. Looked at the seed for a long time. Then he sealed the door again. Not yet. He would keep this one in reserve. For now, the other weapons would be enough. He hoped. 3 days later, Commander visited the facility. She walked through the hallway just as had. Her face showed nothing, but her hands were shaking slightly. Even she had not known how much was hidden here. "We built all of this?" she asked. "We did," said. "Humans are creative creatures. We just try not to think about what we create." Stopped in front of Project Void, the black hole bombs. "Will this work against the?" she asked. "Yes," said simply. "Nothing in the galaxy can defend against a black hole. Their ships will be crushed like paper. Their stations will disappear. Their planets will." "I understand," interrupted. She did not need details. She did not want them. "How long until everything is ready?" she asked. 2 weeks, said. "We need to test the systems, make sure nothing has broken down, train the crews to use them." "You have 1 week, said. Nodded. He had expected this. Time was not something they had. "There is something else," he said, "something you should know." Waited. "These weapons are powerful," continued, "but they are also final. Once we use them, there is no going back. The galaxy will never see us the same way. Every species will fear us. Some will hate us. We will become the monsters we tried not to be." Looked at him for a long moment, then she spoke. "The killed 40,000 people. Children, teachers, families. They did it because they thought we were weak. They did it because they thought no one would care." Her voice was cold as ice. "I do not want to be a monster, but I will not let my people die because I was too afraid to fight. If becoming a monster is the price of survival, then I will pay it, and I will teach the galaxy that this monster has teeth." Nodded slowly. He understood. He had made the same choice when he first agreed to work here. "Then we begin," he said. Over the next week, the mountain came alive. Scientists and engineers worked day and night. Weapons that had slept for decades were woken up and tested. Ships were loaded with bombs that could end worlds. Soldiers trained with machines they had never seen before. On the 5th day, Captain Jin arrived. He was young for a captain, only 35 years old, but he had the hardest eyes had ever seen. He had lost his brother on Titan. "I want to lead the first attack," he said. Studied him. "This is not about revenge, Captain." "I know," Jin said. "It is about justice, and about making sure this never happens again." Believed him, or at least she wanted to believe him. "The First Fleet leaves in 3 days, she said. "You will command the flagship, 12 ships, enough to make a statement." "What are my orders?" Jin asked. "Show them what we are," said. "Make them afraid." Jin saluted and left. On the 7th day, everything was ready. The weapons were loaded, the ships were armed, the soldiers were trained. Humanity was finally prepared to fight. Engineers stood on a hill outside the mountain, watching the ships rise into the sky. They were beautiful in a terrible way, like storms made of metal, like nightmares given form. He thought about the seed, still locked in its room, still waiting. He hoped it would never be needed. But he knew better than to count on hope. In orbit above Earth, Captain Jin looked down at the blue planet, his home, his world. He thought about his brother who would never see this view again. He thought about the children of Titan who had never had a chance to grow up. Then he turned his ship toward the stars. "Set course for space," he ordered. The hunt was beginning. The First Fleet traveled through space like ghosts. Project Shadow kept them hidden. No sensor could find them. No scanner could see them. To the rest of the galaxy, they did not exist. Captain Jin sat alone in his quarters looking at a photograph. It showed 2 young men standing together, smiling. Jin and his brother 5 years ago. His brother had been the better one, kinder, smarter. He had gone to Titan to help build a new hospital. He died there, burned alive when they attacked. Jin put the photograph away. He could not afford to think about the past, only the future, only what came next. His ship, the Vengeance, was the largest in the fleet. It carried weapons that would have been impossible to imagine just weeks ago. Black hole bombs, gravity cannons, missiles that could think for themselves and never miss their targets. 12 ships, that was all they had. 12 ships against an empire that controlled 100 star systems. It would be enough. The journey took 6 days. On the 7th day, they reached the edge of space. Jin stood on the bridge and looked at the stars ahead. Somewhere out there, they were living their normal lives, eating, sleeping, laughing. They had no idea what was coming. Target the first world, Jin ordered. Begin the approach. The planet was called 3. It was a mining colony. 20 million lived there, digging metals from the ground. It was not a military target. It was not important. That was the point. Jin wanted them to understand. He wanted them to feel what humanity had felt. The fear, the helplessness, the knowledge that death could come from anywhere at any time for no reason. They had shown no mercy on Titan. Jin would show none here. The fleet dropped out of shadow space and appeared around 3 without warning. The defense stations barely had time to activate their shields before the first weapons fired. Gravity bombs hit the surface. They were small, precise. Each one created a field of twisted space that crushed everything inside it. Buildings folded like paper. Ground cracked and split. People simply disappeared. It was over in 4 minutes. Jin did not watch. He did not need to. He kept his eyes on the tactical display, counting targets as they vanished. Mission complete, his officer reported. 3 is silent. Move to the next target, Jin said. The fleet vanished back into shadow space. Behind them, a planet died. News of the attack reached them in hours. At first, no one believed it. 3 had simply stopped communicating. Perhaps there was a technical problem. Perhaps the equipment had broken. Then the second attack came, and the third, and the fourth. In 3 days, 12 worlds fell silent. Mining colonies, agricultural planets, research stations. Each one destroyed completely. Each one wiped clean of life. The human fleet moved like a shadow, striking and vanishing before anyone could respond. The High Council met in emergency session. The leaders of the Empire sat in a great hall, their faces showing fear for the first time in centuries. This was not supposed to happen. Humans were weak. Humans were soft. Humans did not fight back. We must negotiate, one council member said. We must offer them peace. Peace, another shouted. They destroyed 12 worlds. What peace can there be? We attacked them first, a third voice said quietly. Everyone turned to look. It was one of the oldest council members, a female named Vila. She had warned against attacking Titan. No one had listened. We killed their people, Vila continued. We laughed at them. We called them insects. Now they are showing us that insects can sting. Then we will crush them, the military commander said. We have 1,000 ships. They have 12. We will hunt them down and... And what? Vila interrupted. Our sensors cannot find them. Our weapons cannot touch them. They appear, they destroy, they vanish. How do you fight shadows? The commander had no answer. Send a message, another council member suggested. Tell them we want to talk. Tell them we will pay for the damage we caused. Tell them anything. Just make them stop. So they did. The message reached Commander on Earth. She read it twice, then passed it to President. He read it in silence. They want to negotiate, said. They offer payment for Titan, trade agreements, recognition as equals. Looked at her, what do you think? I think they are afraid, said. For the first time in their history, someone is fighting back. They do not know how to handle it. Should we accept? Thought for a long moment. Part of her wanted to say yes. Part of her wanted to end this quickly before more blood was spilled. That was the old way, the peaceful way. But she remembered the children of Titan. She remembered the final transmission. Please don't let them win. No, she said, not yet. She wrote a response and sent it to the. It was 3 words long. You didn't negotiate on Titan. Captain Jin received new orders that night. Continue the attacks. Do not stop until they understood that there would be no easy way out. He obeyed without question. Over the next week, the attacks continued. More worlds fell silent. They tried to fight back. They sent fleets to hunt the human ships. But how do you catch shadows? How do you fight enemies you cannot see? The human fleet struck at night. They struck during the day. They struck in the middle of space battles. Ships would suddenly find black holes appearing inside their formation. Entire squadrons would disappear in seconds. Survivors screamed about ghosts and demons before their signals cut off. Fear spread through the empire like a disease. People stopped going outside. Soldiers refused to board ships. The mighty empire was crumbling from the inside. On the 15th day, they sent another message. This time it came from the High Council itself. "We surrender. Name your terms, we will accept anything. Please just stop." Jin received the message on his bridge. He read it and felt nothing. No satisfaction, no joy, just a cold emptiness where his heart used to be. He had done terrible things, he knew that. He had killed millions of people. Most of them were innocent. They had not attacked Titan. They had not made the decision to go to war. They were just living their lives. But the leaders had made the same argument. Those were just colonists, just workers, just insects. They had not seen humans as people. Why should Jin see them differently? Because that was what made humans different, or at least what used to make them different. Jin sent the message to Earth. Commander read it in her office. She did not celebrate. She did not smile. She just sat there thinking about what humanity had become. We wanted to be civilized, she thought. We wanted to be the good ones, and look at us now. But there was no going back. They had crossed a line that could never be uncrossed. All they could do now was move forward and hope that someday, somehow, they could find their way back to the light. She picked up her communicator. "They have surrendered," she told President. "The war is over." "Good," said. His voice sounded tired, old. "What are our terms?" Had thought about this for a long time. She knew what the galaxy was watching. She knew that every species would judge humanity by what they did next. "Complete withdrawal from all human space," she said. "Payment for Titan. 10 times the value of what was destroyed. Public acknowledgement of their crimes. And a promise, written in their own blood if necessary, that they will never attack a human colony again." Was silent for a moment. "That is fair," he said finally. "More than fair, considering what we could demand." "I know," said. "That is the point. We are not them, we will never be them. Even when we fight, we must remember who we are." In the depths of space, Captain Jin turned his ship toward home. The war was over. They were beaten. Humanity had won. But as he looked at the stars, Jin wondered if winning was the same as being right. He did not have an answer. None of them did. The war ended in 6 weeks. 6 weeks to destroy an empire that had stood for 10,000 years. 6 weeks to change everything. They signed the surrender on a space station at the edge of their former territory. Their leaders walked with their heads down, their eyes empty. They had lost more than a war. They had lost their pride, their power, their place in the galaxy. The species that had called humans insects now bowed before them like servants. Commander watched the signing from Earth. She did not feel victory. She felt tired, so very tired. "It's over," President said beside her. "Is it?" asked, "or is it just beginning?" She looked out the window. Outside, people were celebrating in the streets. Flags waved. Music played. Humanity had won its first war and everyone wanted to cheer. But could not celebrate. She kept thinking about the dead. Not just the humans on Titan. The 2, millions of them. Innocent people who had done nothing wrong except be born into the wrong empire. "We did what we had to do," said, as if reading her thoughts. "Did we?" asked. "Or did we become exactly what we said we would never be?" Had no answer. There was no answer, only questions that would haunt them for the rest of their lives. In a hospital in Seoul, survivor Myra woke up for the first time in 3 months. She had been on Titan during the attack. She was one of the only survivors. A piece of falling metal had crushed her legs. She had crawled through fire and ash, searching for help. A rescue team had found her buried under bodies, barely breathing. The doctors had saved her life. They had given her new legs made of metal and wires. She could walk again. She could run. But she would never forget what she had seen. A nurse came into her room. "Someone wants to see you," she said. Myra looked up. Admiral stood in the doorway. He looked older than she remembered. His hair was grayer. His eyes were sadder. He had lost his daughter on Titan. Myra had known they had been friends. "How are you feeling?" asked. "Alive," Myra said, "which is more than most." Nodded, he walked to her bedside and sat down in a chair. "The war is over," he said. "The surrendered." "I heard," Myra said. "Everyone is celebrating." "Not everyone," said softly. They sat in silence for a long time. Outside, the sounds of celebration drifted through the window. Inside, 2 survivors remembered the dead. "They want me to give a speech," Myra said finally, "to broadcast a message to the galaxy, tell them what happened on Titan, tell them about the war." "Will you do it?" asked. Myra looked at her new legs, metal and wire, not quite human anymore, just like humanity itself. "Yes," she said. "Someone has to say what needs to be said." 3 days later, Myra stood in a recording studio. Cameras pointed at her from every direction. Her message would be sent to every species, every world, every corner of the galaxy. For the first time in history, one human would speak for all of humanity. She was terrified, but she had survived Titan. She could survive this too. "Begin recording," someone said. Myra took a deep breath, and then she began. "My name is Myra. 3 months ago, I was a teacher on Titan. I taught children about science and math and how to be kind to each other. I thought kindness was the most important thing in the universe." She paused. Then they came. They did not ask questions. They did not make demands. They just started killing. My students, my friends, my neighbors. 40,000 people died that day. I survived only because someone else's body shielded me from the fire. Her voice stayed steady. She had practiced this. She had cried all her tears already. After the attack, the galaxy waited to see what humanity would do. Many expected us to cry and complain. Others expected us to ask for help. Some even laughed, thinking we were too weak to do anything at all. A small smile crossed her face. They were wrong. She looked directly into the camera. Humanity tried diplomacy for 2 centuries. We believed that being peaceful was the same as being good. We believed that if we treated others well, they would treat us the same way. We were naive. Her voice hardened. But we are not naive anymore. That taught us an important lesson. In this galaxy, kindness without strength is just an invitation to be killed. We will not make that mistake again. She leaned forward. So here is my message to every species listening. Humanity does not want war. We did not start this conflict and we take no pleasure in how it ended. We would rather build hospitals than weapons. We would rather teach children than train soldiers. We would rather be friends than enemies. Her eyes grew cold. But if you attack us, we will destroy you. Not slowly, not gently, completely. The thought we were weak. In 6 weeks their empire fell. Their worlds went silent. Their leaders begged for mercy. She paused, letting the words sink in. We showed them mercy, more than they deserved. But do not mistake mercy for weakness. The weapons we used against them were not our strongest. They were not even close. We have things hidden away that would make your nightmares seem like pleasant dreams. Myra stood up. Her metal legs held her steady. Humanity tried to be refined. We tried to be civilized. We tried to be the peaceful species that everyone could trust. And we will try again. But if you force us to fight, we will show you exactly what humans can do. She spread her arms wide. Remember this day. Remember what happened to the... Remember what happens when you make humanity stop being refined. And remember that we gave you this warning. If you ignore it, the consequences are on you. She lowered her arms. We are not looking for enemies. We want peace. We want friendship. We want to build a better galaxy together, but we will never again let ourselves be victims. The children of Titan deserved better, so do the children who come after them. Her voice softened. To those children, wherever you are, whatever species you belong to, I have one last thing to say. The universe is big and scary and often unfair, but it can also be beautiful and wonderful and full of hope. Never let anyone tell you that you are not worth protecting. Never let anyone make you feel small. A single tear rolled down her cheek. The people of Titan taught me that. They died believing in a better future. I will spend the rest of my life trying to build that future for them. She looked into the camera one last time. Humanity tried diplomacy for 2 centuries. Remember what happened when you made us stop. The recording ended. Myra sat down, suddenly exhausted. Admiral came into the studio and put a hand on her shoulder. Would have been proud, he said. Myra nodded, she hoped so. Across the galaxy the message spread. Every species watched, every leader listened, and for the first time in history they looked at humanity with new eyes. Not as victims, not as weaklings, not as insects to be crushed. As equals, as predators, as something to be respected and feared. The stars grew quiet after that. The other empires pulled back from human space. The pirates stopped attacking human ships. The diplomats started listening when humans spoke. Earth built new colonies, stronger ones, better defended. The people of Titan were remembered with statues and holidays and promises that their deaths would not be forgotten. Commander retired a year later. She bought a small house by the ocean and spent her days watching the waves. Sometimes she would wake up at night, haunted by dreams of burning worlds, but she never regretted her choices. She had done what was necessary to protect her people. Captain Jin returned to space. He led expeditions to the far edges of the galaxy, exploring places no human had ever seen. He never spoke about the war. He never visited the worlds he had destroyed. Some wounds, he knew, would never heal. Engineer went back to his mountain. He locked the weapons away again and hoped they would never be needed, but he kept them ready, just in case. The galaxy had learned to fear humanity. It was his job to make sure they never forgot. And deep in space, on the edge of human territory, a small memorial floated in the void. It was shaped like a dome, just like the colonies of Titan. Inside were the names of everyone who had died. 40,000 names, carved into metal that would last forever. Once a year, ships from Earth would gather there. They would read the names out loud, one by one, so that the dead would know they were not forgotten. And they would make the same promise every time. Never again. Never again would humanity let itself be helpless. Never again would they watch their children die without fighting back. Never again would they be the victims. The galaxy was a dangerous place, full of predators and killers and empires that thought nothing of destroying the weak. But humanity was not weak anymore. They had tried being refined. It had not worked. Now they would try something else. And the stars would tremble before them.